In this video, I'm going to remind you how to set up a Git repository and connect it with your local NetBeanw project. So let's start by creating the repository, and for that we navigate to gitlab.nps.edu and sign in with your NPS credentials. I like to have it remember. So since you've probably only done this once, and that was a while ago, we begin by clicking on New Project. Now I have a bunch here. As you can see, I use GitLab quite a bit, but you may only have one or two. Regardless, you start by saying New Project, and now each of you should call yours MV3302. Again, note the capitalization, but I will call mine class code, as with the NetBeanw project, to distinguish it from the others. Okay, I was a little confused by this URL here because it had my name on it. Again, you can make it private, and then you do want to click on this initialize repository with a README, because if you don't, then you can have trouble cloning it. But if you do that, then everything will be fine. So we'll create the project. And there it was. Again, all that's there is just this README that just has the name of your project in it. Now, what you want to do is you want to go up to the upper right and open up this clone button with the downward arrow. And we actually have two choices. If you have a public-private key set up, there's a way to use Secure Shell to do that. If you're interested in that, contact me. I can let you know about that. That's actually my preferred way of doing it. But if you don't want to do that and don't want to have to deal with that, which is kind of recommended here, just copy the URL to your clipboard. That's all we need for now. If you remember, in the last video, we created our local project. We added the SimKit library, and we confirmed that SimKit was in fact available by virtue of the fact that we can extend this SimEntityBase class, which only exists in SimKit. If you got red squigglies, in other words, if it didn't like this, then that meant that something had gone wrong with that. But that's the other topic. All right, now the steps here are to first initialize the local Git repository, and to do that a couple ways. But we can right-click at the top of the project, select versioning, initialize Git repository, and it says, do you want to do it here? The answer is yes. And now we have our local repository. And now, again, notice that our new class is now green, which, if you recall, is the signal for an added file. Now, we don't want to commit this just yet. What we want to do is we want to pull what was, not clone, we want to pull our remote repository that we set up here. So if we've forgotten to copy the URL, and just go back, copy the URL, and now what we want to do is right-click, select Git, Remote, Pull. Now you will probably see a URL here from before. If not, no problem. Here I've kind of cleared this out, but you just do either a Command or a Control V to copy in the URL. And as you can see, it is HTTPS, and then sort of the Gitlab. This should be your username. And then again, mine says class code. Yours should just say MV3302. In this field, enter your NPS username, your NPS password. And if you're comfortable doing this, click Save the Password, then click on Next. And it will come up and it says, we want to connect master to the origin master, which is the remote. By default, it's not selected. We can either click Select All, or just click on it, or just click on it, or click Select All. And the A stands for the fact that it's going to be added. That's the only time we'll see this in this sequence of things. So then we finish, and we will see a couple things. Now, if you move to the Files tab here, you'll see that the README has been added. So that when we pulled, that file came down from the remote. And now, again, the two-step process is we want to commit locally. So we would say git commit. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff here, including the SimKit files, the various NetBeans things. And we can, let's see, so we can just give it some label. We type commit, and then it is committed locally. Now, if we were ready at this point, we would do a push. I'm not going to do a push right now because at the first computer lab, we're going to be actually creating this arrival process class, and I want to do a little bit more work before I actually do push that. So that concludes how to set up your local Git repository in NetBeans and connect it to the remote GitLab repository as well.